So here's some of my deep cracks that I have between my garage and my cement outside, and I've already gone through these with the grinder, with the concrete wheel on my 4.5 inch grinder, and cleaned them out, put a little bevel on the edge of them, and then, so for instance, this here, this is just a mess, but this was just a crack going all the way. So I cleaned out the crack, ground it out, and then kind of went down the whole way with that. Now some of these are really deep, so I'm gonna sand some of these, and then all down the back of my garage I'm gonna fill that in too. And then I had a spot or two out in the front of my driveway that I've already cleaned up, but I missed a spot, so I'll show you that, and I'm gonna go ahead and film me cleaning that out. So out in my front driveway, this is the one I did the other night, and again, this was just a crack all the way through there, unsightly, but I got her cleaned out and I rinsed it all out with water, so it's good and dry. But for some reason, when I was looking at it, I had that crack, and the only other one I had was in the front driveway was this one here, and I missed it. So this is what all the cracks look like before I went in and cleaned them out. So they might have been a little wider than I needed, but I'll be able to get material in there. So this is the one I'm gonna clean out yet. All right guys, so I'm gonna get that masonry blade on. So I just use this 4.5 inch one. I don't even know what brand this is. I've had it for quite a while. But throw this guy on and we'll go out and I'll clean out that last crack that I missed. Let me get all my garb on.
And this is pretty much how you got to roll when you want to do that. Earplugs, goggles, and dust protection.
Alright guys, hopefully that gave you a good idea. You can kind of see the way I did it. I went at it just all down the crack vertically, and then I kind of come back and I just put a little bit of a bevel on it, not too angled. So I just figured the bevel will help it from breaking out as easy. So to each his own, but this is the way I'm doing it. Now I'm going to go ahead and give it a quick rinse, and then once this is dry, this should be ready to fill. Alright, so I think I'm going to attempt to sand these. Okay, so I think I'm going to use this funnel to try to get the sand kind of where I want it. And I have this this little glass jar here that I can put the sand in. Let's see how that does to try to keep the mess down a little bit. Alright, that seems to work. A little slow, but gets it in there. And I'd rather buy some sand for a backer than all that material. That stuff's expensive. So where I have the smaller holes, I'm going to go ahead and use cotton rope as my backer rod. But for these deep ones, I want to get some sand in there. So here's what an unfilled area looks like. And then if we move over here, here's the filled area. So I can probably still even go a little higher, but at least you can see the sand in there now. Alright guys, so I mostly have this crack here filled with sand, and it took a lot of sand. I used over a full pail of sand, those little pails there. And I got a great tip for you. What I find works great to get in here, if you want to pack it down, or use a construction pencil. If your gap happens to be about the same as mine, a construction pencil works great to get in there and pack it down a little bit and just make sure it's where you want it. Another prep tip I got for you is get yourself a horsehair brush or something like that. This is just a shoe brush, but works amazing when you just want to finish up and clean up your joint. If you get the blower out, you're obviously going to probably be blowing out the sand you don't want to blow out. So this makes it nice just to get all the sand away or back down in there so you don't have it built up on the corners there. Okay, so as far as this garage door one here, I'm going to consider this one fully prepped. You can see where I'm at with the sand. It even looks a little deeper in the camera than it is, but I think that'll work good. And I've wiped it down with the horsehair brush, so I'm going to continue to prep the rest of my cracks this way, and then we'll get on to filling it with the material. Okay guys, so the product I'm going to be using is the Sika Pro Self-Leveling Sealant. I got it in gray. This is the one I got from Lowe's, and then I needed to get myself a new gun. Let's see what this is, a Cox Power Flow. I got that from Amazon. I can put a link to that in the description. but I went with the bigger tubes just because it's a lot better deal than buying the 10-ounce tubes. So hopefully I'll be able to use it okay. I hope it's not too large that it's hard to use. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with this. I've seen some guys do it where they put tape down first. This is self-leveling, so I'm going to attempt first to just put it in the hole and kind of freestyle it and not use tape, and we'll see what happens. I got my my bucket of water there ready for cleanup with a little soapy water in it in case I needed to tool something out. Guys have shown you take a little bit of dish soap or 409 or something, and that way it doesn't stick to your finger. So let's get started and see how it goes. I'll do my best to stay out of the camera there. So far this stuff seems to be flowing really nice. I'm glad I went with the sand. And it was funny when I came back today and looked at it, the sand that I had put in had already settled. So have to kind of check that. This is a big crack though. Like some areas here I'm already seeing where I could have had some more sand. But man, this stuff is flowing nice. So far so good with this gun. Oh, we got a little much right there. I love how I can just go over it again if I need more and it just levels itself back out again. It's pretty incredible. I think this first tube is going to have a little bit more of a learning experience as far as maybe using a little too much. Let's see how we clean up with soap and water. That wiped up good. Yeah, so far, at least for this size crack, I don't see any need to use tape. Let me move down a little bit here. This particular one's kind of nice too because the garage floor is higher, so it gives me kind of a stop. think I got a little too much soap in my water. But it still cleans up good. All right, it shouldn't take as much down here because I got a little bit more proud sand. I decided to do this video because I saw a lot of videos with Sika stuff, but not so many with this self-leveling stuff. So, like most everything, I kind of like to document what I do so I can look back at it. So, it's kind of a fun little video diary of house projects. One thing I hope to show you that you don't really see in the other videos too is how much or how far these tubes go. A lot of guys use the small tubes, but I'm almost feeling like the entirety of this garage door crack. Now they're all going to be a little different based on the width, but I think this crack is going to use the whole tube. And this stuff is incredible. We're getting down there for sure. All right, this is the home stretch for this particular area. So let's see if we can have enough to get through. I don't know that we're gonna. Getting close. Sure would like to be able to finish it without opening a new one for this spot. Looks like we're gonna do it, guys. I still got a tiny bit in there. Let me let this settle out a minute. It actually looks professional in my opinion. So that's good. Which is nice when you can take a really crappy looking crack and even though you make it bigger, by the time you're said and done, it looks pretty nice. So I got a little bit left in the tube. I'm gonna get down here because it looks like this stuff has settled in quite a bit on this end. So down on the end where I started, I don't know if you can see down in there, but it looks like that settled in pretty good. So hopefully I have enough left in the tube I can finish that part off. Hopefully the base is setting up enough that it won't keep sinking down in. Okay, that is absolutely it. I'm at the end. So, very minimal waste. The tube is completely empty. This is a nice gun. One last minute drip here. I'll show you how easy that cleans up with soap and water. Wipes right up. Now granted, this is sealed floor on the inside of the garage, so here's a spill, mini spill out here that's not sealed. So that kind of spreads around more, but wipes up. Alright, so here's the finished job, still curing. So my hope is it doesn't sink down too much more. Hopefully my sand is good. It looks like these ends are just, we're losing a little bit on each end. So what we're gonna have to do is when we get the new tube out to do the other parts, we're gonna have to, we'll get a chance to see how that works on top of existing. I'm sure it'll be okay. Okay guys, I apologize for the extreme sunlight and the shadow possibly, but so now I'm out front to the driveway, and this is the one I cleaned out the other day, and this gap is much tighter. So what I'm using for backing rod is this cotton rope. This is just like clothesline cotton rope, and look how beautifully that sits in there. And that's going to take it up. We're going to use way less material here than we did in that garage door one, for example. And then I'm just going to take a putty knife and kind of work it down in. And then I still have, you know, enough of a nice gap here, but I won't be losing my material. So this was actually, this rope was 3/16, I think, for 50 feet here. So much cheaper than a tube of Sika. Okay guys, I'm out here at the front driveway. I got the backer in there, the clothesline backer. I did do just a T here at the end. I just threw some clothesline in there just to make a stop so we're not going down our other ones, but this worked absolutely phenomenal, I think. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of yield we get out of the tube for this one. And then I did the same thing here. One thing I didn't, I'll have to watch this. I might need to put a little bit something there to keep it from flowing. I did one there as a stop, and I did one here as a stop too. So I guess I'll need a stop here and a stop here. So I got to add a few more stops. And then I got this one over here that I had just ground out yesterday and showed you guys. I didn't put backer in the entire thing because it's not all too deep. So let's go open that new tube and top off those other spots and then bring it out here. Okay, here's the start of tube number 2, and we'll backfill this guy. Hopefully it's still got enough tack that it'll stick to it good. Oh, flowing really good at the end. Look here guys, we got a major fail here on this intersection too. We should have had way more. We should have used something different for backer here because the sand keeps running under. So I'm going to have to let that set up and go back over that later. It looks like that's the only place I'm losing material. Everything else looks pretty good. So yeah, if you got a firm bottom, sand is great. If you don't, you better get some kind of backer rod. So guys, another thing you can do, and I wasn't planning on doing this, but there's so much other little debris that's already blowing in there that I figured while I'm here, I'll just go ahead and sprinkle some sand in there, and then that'll at least help it blend in eventually. Take some of the gray away. So I'll just sprinkle it on there and then blow it away later. And this is probably about 20 minutes after it's gone in, so I don't think there's any harm in this. I just watched a ant go to his death. He decided it'd be a good idea to get in this stuff, and he didn't really make it. Alright guys, and this is what it's looked like when I'm done sanding it. So I'll come back after it's dry and just blow away the excess sand. But I think that helps lighten it up. And you can see over here where I have to repair yet, I was careful not to get any sand in there. But you can see the stuff that's still blowing in. Alright guys, it's been about 20 minutes. I just come out here with my pail of sand, and I've just been going over whether this is right or wrong. You'll find out when we see the results later, but I've just been going over it and just dousing it with sand. And then I'll let what takes take, and then I'll just blow away the rest. But I think this will work. That'll really blend it in. So this one out here in the driveway turned out pretty good. It looks like I got a little gap there. I'm struggling around back. I've been trying to keep up. I needed some bigger backer rod back there because the sand wasn't working for me. But out here in the driveway it looks pretty good. So if I were to touch this right now, I'll give you an idea about when I'm sanding it. So if I stick my finger in there, yeah, see, you can still move it to the point where it still levels itself a little bit. But I think it'll be all right. If it's not, I'm sure you guys will yell at me in the comments and tell me how I screwed it up, but I think it's gonna be all right. All right guys, I've had a few days off of the cement project, so I ordered some backing rod from Amazon. I got some medium, these are 20-foot bags, and some small. And I should have had this the other day when I did the area in front of the garage where I was showing you how the sand was backing away and everything. I had used some string too, but even that wasn't thick enough for the area I was doing. So let me show you how that came out the other day. And I put sand and everything. So I think, overall, I think it looks pretty good. This is where we had those, this is much higher than this surface anyway, so it's never going to be perfect. But I think that sand really took it in good. So it is, not flat, but it's going to keep the water out. And this is the one, again, I never went back over it again because I didn't want to open a new tube. So I ended up just taking some soapy water on my finger and kind of tooling it out the other day. So it's a little low right now. I'd be curious if I had material left from the rest of my project, if I were to go over this one more time to try to get it level, if it would stick to the existing material. I just have to scrape away some of that sand, but overall I think that sand makes it look pretty nice. So I have a few areas left to do along the edge of my garage here, and then down here in this area
and they were just way too big of gaps that I wasn't going to try after what I learned the other day to not have some backing rod. So I'm going to put that in and we'll give it another go for the rest of it.
So this size I got here is the medium bag, and this is the size crack I got here. But man, this is going in just really nice. Like I said, I should have had this before. But I ended up getting 2 bags of the small, which I think I would have been better getting the medium for everything, because it's very squishy anyway. So I think the small one might be a little small, but yeah, this is just goes in really nice here, and then I can kind of come back with my putty knife and just push it down in. So that's going to be good. Okay guys, I finally finished this project. I took my time, did it over a series of a few different days. Learned some valuable lessons I'll share with you guys, and kind of let you know how far this went. So again, I used 4 tubes. I think I probably wasted 1 entire tube, just because where I thought my sand was holding up, or I had enough backer rod, or I thought it was really prepped, I still ended up sinking and losing stuff, and it running down. So I was always careful to put like ends in, or make sure it didn't run out the end. But what was happening is sometimes it would run out the middle. And so again, I think at the end of the day, I could have got by with 3 tubes if I was properly prepared before I started the project. But in the end, I did 67.5 feet of, varying widths and things. But, if I were to use those only 3 tubes, that meant I would get about 22 or so feet out of a tube, which I think is pretty good. This stuff was awesome. I loved using it. It levels out just beautifully. You could even go back a few minutes later, or I've even went back in some cases like 15 minutes later and topped off, and it's still leveled right out on there. I will say it flows very easily, so it is tricky. You always want to make sure you have cleanup stuff ready. In my case, I had a bunch of pieces of paperboard laying around that I just had, that I made sure was quickly ready to sop up anything. And then I think the backer rod that I originally didn't start with became critical. So I was trying to use some rope and some sand, and I think those work good in different applications. But for me, I think the foam was the way to go. And again, if you're prepping properly with the foam, you're using less of this expensive material. And then I used this gun, which was pretty amazing. This was a Cox gun. I'll put a link to all this stuff I used in the description, but that worked really well. And again, I wanted to get the bigger size instead of the smaller tubes. And then this backer rod, I found that I liked going with like the 1/2 inch size instead of the 1/4 inch, because even the 1/2 inch, you could easily compress it to 1/4. And I just found I had both sizes, but I got more use out of the bigger one. So let me go show you my results. I got some mixed results, but overall I learned a lot from this project. So this is the area about a week later where I started the project, along my garage door here. And this is the stuff that I sanded when I was done, and I think that came out really well. So I'm pretty much almost level with the bottom grade, but then it's relief here. So that looked really good. Now I'll show you some areas where I didn't do any sanding. So this was my sealant along the garage wall here. So this is just the standard gray that comes out of the tube. And the reason I didn't sand here is I'm going to go in here and repaint along the bottom here. So I figured I'll keep the sand out of there. And then I had done this area here. That turned out pretty good. There's a few areas still, and this is what I was talking about earlier, where you just all of a sudden you'd be losing some. Now that's a small hole, but I still have about 1 or 2 little areas in this strip. This one here, and then very minuscule areas down here. Probably don't even really need to refill them, but if I have a smaller tube, I'll probably go in and fill these. And I guess there's one here too. Yeah, so that probably needs some more. What I found with this stuff is you can go back a week later. I had this in some other spots where it had sunk down, and I went in and put new material right on top, and it melded in with it really nice. So I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but it seemed to work well for me, and it's still set up good. So yeah, this is what it looks like, you know, without any sand. So the sand really blends it in. Now I'll go show you how the front turned out where I had sanded. So I had this tiny little area at the front garage, and that really blended in nice with the sand. And then over here, like at the front of my driveway, this one that I had cut out, I had sanded as well. What looks worse is actually some of my grinder marks, but the sand kind of makes it a little bit more subtle, so it looks nice. All right, guys, so thanks for joining me on this. My best advice to you is make sure you have extra material. You don't want to get halfway through the project, oh no, I need more sealant. So just have extra on hand. You can always send it back or bring it back. So again, thanks for watching. If this was helpful, go ahead and hit that like button, and we'll see you on the next one.
Hey guys, Tennessee Yankee. Thanks for watching. If you found this content helpful, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on your right. I have other content linked for you on the left side. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Thanks again for watching.